on Air India, and this is after flyers were stuck for hours on end at the airport, and now a show cause notice has been issued to Air India, and they've been asked to explain this passenger misery as well as the massive delay in their flight. This is after many passengers took to social media, even speaking to NDTV to talk about the kind of misery that they were going through after their flight was delayed for over 14 hours. Let's go across to Nikunj now for more on this. And Nikunj, now a reaction there from the Aviation Ministry asking for Air India to explain this massive delay, this passenger misery.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is coming from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, which has issued a so-called notice now to the Air India. Remember, this is not for the first time, and my sense is that the ministry itself would have been watching these developments with alarm and concern over a fairly decent period of time. Because usually the Ministry of Government of India would not react in a knee-jerk manner, and just because one flight has been delayed out of proportion or disproportionately, they will issue so-called notice. So quite clearly, they are concerned about delay on the long-haul flights. Quite clearly, they are more concerned about the apathetic attitude shown towards the passengers, not facility. These are, at the end of the day, with the technical equipment, things can go wrong at any point in time. I myself remember sitting in a Virgin Atlantic flight at London for 5 hours while trying to return to India. But the question is that what kind of amenities are you providing to those booked on those flights? Remember, there are elderly, there are children, there are people who can be physically challenged and can suffer from some sort of any sort of ailment. So the question is about the overall conduct of the carrier, and that probably has brought Air India into the crosshairs of the Civil Aviation Ministry, which certainly has not accepted the kind of conduct displayed towards the passengers as appropriate. And that is why, because of this inappropriate conduct of the carrier, this so-called notice has been issued. Again, as I said, these are technical matters. Staff can be delayed at any airport anywhere in the world. But what is more critical and important is the post-delay conduct of the carrier or the airline. So in this case, quite clearly, the passengers were very angry. Many of them vented their anger on NDTV as well, took to the social media. Finally, observing the whole situation, the ministry quite clearly taking note of this, issuing a so-called notice to Air India, wanting them to explain the conduct. Other than the delay, of course, post-delay conduct of the carrier, as I have been saying, is critical. And that's where the passenger amenities have been called in question. And ministry, at this point in time, quite clearly seems to think that this is a fit case for asking for an explanation from the airline, now a privatized carrier, earlier Government of India's flagship carrier. But quite clearly, the privatization of this airline, as many observers are pointing out and most passengers are pointing out, has certainly faced many hiccups and has not gone down smoothly. Whether it is the management of the personnel, whether it is the management of the assets that they have received, whether it is the management of the flight routes, etc. There seems to be something seriously amiss, as most neutral observers would point out at this point.
Right. So many challenges there. As you said, there have been a series of such, various complaints against Air India. If we talk about this particular incident that took place, a flight was delayed for over 20 hours. One passenger spoke about how other passengers had actually fainted. They were taken inside the aircraft and they were made to sit there without any sort of air conditioning. And some passengers even fainted. One of the passengers had put out a post on social media tagging the Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia as well. And so, Nikunj, this was really something that sounded like a complete nightmare. This flight to San Francisco that got delayed for over 20 hours, and passengers weren't being clearly told what was happening next, and they were made to sit in the aircraft also, and they only disembarked after some passengers fainted.
Well, absolutely. The fact is, as I said, that the post-incident conduct of a carrier is most important as far as the regulators or the administrator's point of view is concerned. Now, if a craft has been delayed, how have the passengers who have already been booked on that craft or on that flight have been handled is the most critical part. Delays can happen. Delays do happen globally. But if a flight is being delayed for 20 hours, my own sense is that airlines would be required to provide hotel accommodation, particularly to the children, elderly, and some who are not completely fully fit or suffering from any kind of ailment. Those people will have to be necessarily accommodated in some sort of a hotel accommodation. Similarly, the people who are complaining of any kind of discomfort will have to be taken at a different scale. But quite clearly, it has not happened. Sometimes, of course, the passenger complaints are also aggravated in an aggravated manner, because remember, they are in a state of anger. Many people will miss their appointments. Many people will miss seeing their near and dear ones at the airport who may be there to receive them. So the disarray at the craft landing or takeoff shows a lot of things out of there. Some people will miss their visa appointments if they are critical ones. That would be quite a nightmarish scenario. So people tend to get very, very angry, and you can't blame them. They have actually paid for a certain amount, certain time of travel, and that is when they wish to travel and wish to reach a particular destination. However, as I said, I'm again repeating myself that the post delay, and delay is also not a 3, 4, 5 hours. It's a 20-hour delay, nearly a day-long delay. 24 hours is a very long time. And during the entire process, how the passengers have been handled by a carrier would eventually decide what the administrative ministries will decide to act upon, or how many administrative ministries will see that process. Quite clearly, the entire handling of the passengers post delay has not gone down well with the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and they have decided to ask for explanation from the Air India. And as I said, that this certainly is not a one-off incident, and the ministry obviously would be keeping a watch over that as well.